So how do you actually choose the right answer when doing passage questions on the SAT? What you're about to watch is a call from my premium school community, Mission 1400 Plus, where I basically answer that exact question. If you've been watching the channel, you would know that last week I did a call and I posted here as well on how to actually read passages on the SAT. This is how to actually choose the correct answer based on that. If you want to attend these calls in person and ask some questions and also answer some of the SAT questions that I have in there, feel free to join with a free trial with a link in the description. But anyways, this is the video. Tonight's call is going to be on answer choice. Wait, actually, I guess you weren't supposed to see all that, but answer choice selection for reading passage questions. So if anybody saw the call last week or the recording of the call last week on last Saturday, back then I talked about how to actually comprehend reading passages on the SAT. Basically, how to look at a passage, look at text, and actually really understand what is being said by the passage. This is basically the continuation of that. We kind of ended on a cliffhanger in that last one. And so today I'm going to actually be talking about how to actually select the correct answer choice once you have read the passage well. And the thing with this is it really is only once you have understood the passage well. Because the way you kind of think about this is it's really like, you can think of it like a movie. Actually, okay. So what's a movie recently that like did bad? I guess what's like a movie that like did really like laughably bad? I guess maybe like the new Star Wars movie, the Mandalorian thing everybody talked about. That wasn't like terrible, but pretty bad. But okay, we all know sometimes they create a movie that just is really bad and they may like try to do a bunch of stuff to promote it and like try to make it really popular, but still it's just a bad movie. So nobody actually wants to see it in the first place. It doesn't matter how much you promote a movie. If it is a bad movie, probably still nobody's going to want to see it. And it's probably not going to get that real excitement that they want behind it. But then you can look at these movies that just came out recently, Obsession and Backrooms. These movies, I did not even really see an ad. Okay, maybe I saw one ad for Obsession and maybe I heard of Backrooms, but I saw very little promotion at all for either of these movies. So, and probably a lot of other people did not see too much promotion either, but they just got extremely popular because they liked the movies. The movies themselves were so good that it didn't even matter the promotion. It just got really popular just because the movies themselves were so good. And so that's kind of like it with this in choice selection. It doesn't matter how good you are at selecting the right answer choice. If you have not read the passage well, it's always going to be extremely difficult. On the other hand, though, if you do read the passage well, it low-key can be somewhat easy, like not extremely easy, but somewhat easy to choose the right answer. It's maybe kind of surprising to hear if you're hearing this for the first time, but genuinely, it can not be that terrible to choose the right answer if you have actually read the passage well beforehand. How do you actually go through this process? The first thing that I always say to do is after you read the passage for the first time, always, in every single circumstance, make a prediction for the answer choice. There are basically two different reasons why you have to do this. The first reason is just to confirm that you actually understood what the passage said. Back to the example with the movies. Think about if you watch these movies or any movie. If you like actually understand what's going on in most movies that you see, or books, I guess this also applies to, you can probably kind of guess what is going to happen. Like, I'm sure anybody who watched Obsession, okay, I don't know what actually happened in Obsession. No spoilers here because I don't even know. But I'm sure when you're watching the movie, you can kind of guess how this is going to end, at least a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit surprising, but you can probably guess like there's some kind of indication as to how this, or at least you probably know it's going to end. It's going to end bad. It's probably going to end bad. It's probably not going to be good for him or probably for her in the end of the movie. Backrooms, okay, I really don't know much about Backrooms either, but I assume probably when you're watching it, you can guess something about how it's going to end. And the reason why is because you understand what is happening. If you just watch one of these movies and you didn't like actually try to understand anything, if you're just like, I don't know, watching it in the background, like while you're on Roblox or something, like you would not actually be able to make any prediction. You would not get what's going on. It would not make sense to you. So you cannot make a prediction. So if you can make a prediction for the passage question, that's basically like extra security. It's like, okay, if you've made it to this far and you can still make a prediction, it shows, okay, you definitely understand it. There's no risk of not being able to understand it. I one time did a call where I did some passage questions, and there's one question where the passage was extremely, extremely hard. And I got confused on it. And I thought to myself, okay, let me just skip the prediction step. Let me just not go through this step real quick. Let me just go straight to the answer choices. It can't be that bad. And it was really bad. Like, I did not understand the choices at all. I could not figure out the answer. I generally did not even know what it was. It's all because I skipped the prediction step. If I actually forced myself to predict, I would have noticed at this step that I did not understand it and that I had to go back. So it's really like this kind of security thing, to, ensure that you do know it. It's not going to be the case that you can just be bad at making a prediction. I've heard people say that before, that they feel like they're bad at making predictions. That's almost never the case. Like, even if I were to just say something here, like say I wrote a sentence like, After this call is done, I will be doing a blank. If you know me, if you know like what I'm currently doing on my channels, if you know what I've been doing the past few days, you would know that the answer to this question definitely is a live stream. If you're not familiar with me, if you don't know this, then you would not be able to answer that question. It all comes down to how good are you familiar with me? It's not anything else. It's not like you're just bad at making predictions. Okay, second reason you want to always make a prediction, and this is not as big of a reason, but it's basically to prime yourself to choose the right answer. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen this image before. This is like a very common thing. It's supposed to like show something in terms of how perspective changes things, how you need to look at things in a different way. But basically in this image, you may be able to tell, you could look at this two different ways. Either it's an old lady with a very, very big nose, or it is a young lady in like a feather looking hat who's looking away from the screen. So I'm not sure which one you saw first. I guess you can comment in the chat if you saw one first before the other. I'm guessing maybe you can see both now that I explained it. But most people, they have one over the other where they see it first. I think usually me, I see the young lady first and then I see the older person. But think about it. If before I showed you this, I instead showed you this image of just a different young lady looking kind of in the same direction, now probably almost everybody who sees this image would say, okay, it looks like the young lady looking away, because their brain is just primed to think, okay, young lady's looking away. That's what I'm thinking about. That sounds kind of weird, but yes, that's what their brain is thinking. Meanwhile, I guess I didn't have one here, but if I showed you like an old lady before looking at this with a very big nose, you probably would have first noticed the old lady almost every single time. And there's many psychology experiments on this as well, like maybe stuff where you put somebody in a room, you show them somebody who's really angry, and then now they interpret things as being more angry or mean or bad, or something like sad, and now they interpret everything as being sad. So a ton of stuff like this. And this is obviously going to be useful for you when choosing the answer, because there's definitely going to be many cases where multiple choices look correct. But if you've already primed your brain to be thinking this specific thing, it's going to be a lot easier for you to look at the choices and then realize, okay, that's what the right answer is. This happens all the time for me. I prime myself by doing the prediction, and then I realize, okay, there's one choice that almost exactly matches what I predicted before. So do that step. And when I say make a prediction, you don't have to do something extremely complicated and convoluted. It doesn't have to be some kind of exact thing. Like this is going to be the exact word for word thing that's going to be the answer choice. That's obviously way too long, takes too much energy, too difficult to do, all that stuff. All I'm asking you to do is give a prediction that's in the right direction for the choice. So for this one here, actually, low-key, I have not read this since the last call, but okay, they're talking here about basically how warming up before you practice makes you better at playing an instrument. I did not just like read that extremely fast, it's just because I read it last call. My prediction for this one probably would be something like warming up helps you play better music. Really something that simple. Like I'm not trying to give the entire thing here. I'm just saying warming up helps you play better music. Very simple, just a few words. And it can even be simpler than that. It can just be like warming up is good. So just something in the right direction. And one more thing, I know I'm saying a lot of stuff on this, but just one more quick thing. It's also okay if your prediction is not right. Like even if you're making many predictions and sometimes they are not turning right, it still is valuable to do so just for the first step alone, the confirmation step, because that's always going to be a thing. Priming your brain, maybe or maybe not, but confirmation for sure is always going to be a huge benefit for doing this. Now, when you look at the choices now onto the actual part of choosing the correct answer, it's pretty simple what you're trying to look for. You go through each individual choice and you try to find what is the incorrect part for each choice. A lot of students, when they first start SAT reading, they may think to themselves that they're always just trying to choose the best answer. So look at these, which one is best? Like this is like, if you're trying to like give it a score out of 10, this would be like a 5 answer choice. This would be like a 6 answer choice. It'd be 7 answer choice. It'd be 9 answer choice. So I have to go for the 9 answer choice. That is not really what is happening. It's more the case that like choice A is extremely bad, choice B is extremely bad, choice C is extremely bad, and D is all right. So we have to go for that. And not necessarily extremely bad, but at least there's something very clearly wrong about the choice that makes it so you have to eliminate it. So that's more what you're looking for. You're looking for the one that just is not bad. To do this, all you really have to do is focus on the elimination. Elimination is definitely the most important part of this process, and it's really all you need to know for the most part, actually. So you look at each choice and you look through the words in there. And in a basic sense, what you're doing is you're trying to make sure that every single word of the choice is directly supported by something said in the passage. Now, what does this actually mean? I don't literally mean that every single word of the choice has to be from the passage. Like for this choice here, students doesn't have to be in the passage. We don't have to say that exact word. We don't have to say who in the passage. We don't have to say play in the passage. We don't have to say wind instruments in the passage. None of that is required. All that matters is that it has the exact same ideas in the passage itself. So students who play wind instruments are more likely to make mistakes than students who play percussion instruments. So there would have to be something in the passage here saying that students who are playing the wind instruments are just making so many more mistakes. They're so bad. They're struggling so much. That has to be said somewhere in the passage. And students who play percussion are not as bad. So just the idea has to be supported. And really, I guess we could use this analogy for a lot of different things, but it's basically like being a lawyer. You know, when you are a lawyer, if you're trying to say that someone is guilty or if you're trying to say that somebody is innocent, typically it's not going to be the case that your client, or let's say you're trying to prove that somebody is guilty. Typically, it's not going to be the case that the perpetrator, like literally is on camera. We could clearly see their face. We could clearly see them do the crime, like 100%. It's not like they just shouted out, hey, I am this person right before they committed the crime. That's probably not what happened. Probably more the case like you have some kind of cloudy imagery. You have different accounts of the thing. You can't exactly tell if that's the person. You can't tell if it was the exact same name. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this movie, My Cousin Vinny, but basically the whole movie is about these two guys and they get charged for a crime when they did not do it literally at all, and they have to like have their lawyer convince people that they didn't do it. So it's typically not cut and dry. It's not going to be the case that you're just looking to make sure each word is in passage. It's looking to see, is the idea present in the passage itself? I guess one more thing I do need to mention here on the choice selection thing is this thing, whether it's supported or whether it is an assumption. You probably are familiar with this as well. You are also only trying to go for a choice that is supported by the passage. You cannot be assuming stuff that is not directly said in the passage itself. So I actually have a short practice here. Actually, before I even say that, so the thing to know with this is that the way to know whether it's actually supported or whether it's an assumption, it's pretty simple. You're just trying to think to yourself, is there any scenario in which this doesn't necessarily have to be the case? So like you can look at me right now. It's very dark where I am in my room right now. You might say that it must definitely be night where you are right now because it is so dark in your room. Like, how could this possibly be daytime right now? But theoretically, it could just be the case that I turned all the lights off and I have no windows in my room. That could also just 100% be the case. And maybe I live in a different time zone where it currently is morning. So there's a different scenario where that doesn't have to be the case. If I opened to this call and I didn't have my glasses on, you may say that, okay, I must have lost my glasses before this call started. But I also maybe just do not have my glasses on right now, which is the actual truth. I don't know, if it's wet outside, you may think that must mean it's raining outside. But in actuality, it could just be a sprinkler. It could just be dew. It could just be, I don't know, what else can make it wet outside? So all these different things. You're just trying to think, is there another scenario? Oh, also, I guess one example that I have given before is this thing with like George Washington. So say you have a passage about George Washington, and then somehow, I don't know how you get here, but somehow a choice is about the iPhone. And somehow it asks the question, could George Washington have known about the iPhone? Or at least that's something you have to think about when deciding whether it's right. Could George Washington have known about the iPhone? Would it be an assumption to say George Washington never could have used or known about an iPhone? It would not be. It would be fully supported. It would be a valid thing to say because there's literally no way that you can defy the laws of time and physics to have George Washington be in the same time frame when an iPhone was made. That just would not be possible. Time is one thing that's like immutable. You can't really fix it. So that's the thing that you're thinking. Here's some examples. The cafe had switched to oat milk in March. By June, its monthly sales had risen 40%. Claim, the oat milk switch caused the sales increase. Is there another scenario where that could not be the case? Well, maybe they rose because just more people moved into the city. Maybe they rose because they did some other advertising campaign that was big. So that would definitely be an assumption to say that that was the sole reason. 2, every student who completed the diagnostic scored above 1,200 on the practice test that followed. Mariah completed the diagnostic, so she scored above 1,200 on the practice test. Would that be an assumption or a supported thing? For this one, it would be supported because it says here, every student who did it scored that score. So like it says every, like there's no exceptions here. It doesn't say almost every, it says every. So there's no scenario in which she could not have didn't, because like literally they're saying something absolute. Researchers found, okay, so this be supported. Researchers found that the coral samples taken from warmer water showed more bleaching than those from cooler waters. Okay, so more bleaching than from cooler waters. Warmer water associated with more bleaching in these coral samples. This one might be a little bit harder, but this one would actually also be supported because it just says it is associated with more bleaching. It says there's a decent chance that if you are warmer water, you have more bleaching in it. It's not saying that every single case is like that. It's just saying that it is an association. So that is why it would be supported. I won't do all these. Let me just do one more real quick. The novel was sold poorly in release, but is now considered a classic, taught in most university courses. The novel is more respected now than it was at release. I would consider this an assumption because this is more respected now than it was at release. That may or may not be the case. I think there definitely might be some novels that are read in universities that are just not respected. I can't really think of an example of what that might be because, I mean, most cases they are definitely respected. But I remember like I read like this book in 7th grade. It was okay, this is not university, but like in 7th grade where it's like Pushcart War. It's like some satirical thing about people who are like working their grocery carts and they like go to war with each other. And I think they like try to fight the government or something. So, I mean, I feel like that probably is not respected. And so that's a book we read. So I can think of just one example off my head where this would not be the case. So this may not necessarily be 100% true. Let me just do one more real quick. Dr. Chen argued that the city should expand its bus network. Critics noted the plan would require raising local taxes. Dr. Chen wants to raise local taxes. Again, this would definitely be an assumption because it is probably the case. But maybe it's the case that he just wants to expand the bus network and he has a different way of paying for it. Maybe he's a billionaire and he wants to use his own money to fund this entire thing. That could definitely 100% be the case, honestly. So saying that he definitely wants to raise local taxes, that's going a little bit too far. Okay, so I do all those examples just to show you how you should look at this, how you should think about it whenever you see some of this random information. Only other thing that can sometimes show up is that sometimes you definitely might be in a situation where multiple choices do both seem correct. Like maybe A and B both really feel right to you, and you just can't decide between A and B. If you are in that situation, the truth is it always comes down to the fact that there's some minute thing that is not supported that you're missing. So you're looking through it, and there's just like maybe it's even just like a word that's not supported by the passage, and you're just missing that exact word. So I had somebody in the stream, Tanesh, a few nights ago who gave me this really good way of thinking about it where it's like when that happens, all you just want to do is just like literally go word for word, literally think every single individual word and see, is it supported? And it will be tedious, it will be annoying, but it is definitely worth doing it. There are definitely a few cases, so what I just said before maybe is not entirely accurate. There are definitely a couple of cases I have seen where it's not that one is not supported. It's literally just that one is a more direct choice, one is a more concise choice, one is a more clear choice. So it would be the case like one is just better than the other, like maybe one is a 9, the other is a 10, so you go for the 10. That does occasionally happen, but definitely it's much more likely that that's not the case. Instead, you're just missing something. So that's the last thing I'll say there. All right, let me just quickly do some of these. We already talked about here what this said about the warm-ups. Let me just look through each choice and see which part is wrong. So students who play to win more likely to make mistakes. Okay, so I don't think it says anything here about playing them being more likely to make mistakes. That's definitely not supported. There's nothing in the passage that says that. So A would be wrong. B, holding rehearsals in the morning leads to more playing errors than holding them in the afternoon. I don't think it says anything about holding them in the morning, or at least not anything about that affecting it. So definitely not anything with the morning. So that'd be wrong. C, spending a few minutes warming up before rehearsing can help band students play their music more accurately. So that definitely is supported. We say some stuff in here about them warming up and then playing more accurately. So that definitely seems right. And keep in mind, the choice is not absolute. It's not saying that literally in 100% of cases, if you warm up, you'll play more accurately. It just says that it can help you do so. So that's why it gets through that rule. It's not like in this one here, how, yeah, this one, they say it's associated with more bleaching than these coral samples. Associate, it's not saying that 100% of the times, it just says more often. Now, it always is good to look at all the choices, so I will look at D as well. Band members who already know their music well do not benefit. So we're not really saying that. We don't say anything here about them who know their music well already, so that would be wrong. So C would definitely be right here. This one here, let me think what it says. This passage was saying here that when people attend these community board meetings, they are more exposed to people's problems, so they're more open to doing stuff to actually fix the problems. Like they may hear from a board meeting that somebody is struggling with like crime in their neighborhood, so now they're thinking, okay, let's try to do some more stuff to battle crime. So my prediction here, it asks what are most likely to complete the text. I would just say this exposure, therefore, makes people more compassionate. It makes people more like thinking about different things. That's my prediction. Look at choices and reduce the availability of volunteer opportunities for non-attendance. Okay, so I don't think that really has anything to do like that. Doesn't have anything with exposure. So non-attendees, that's probably just not right. B, implies that community projects require meeting attendance as a prerequisite. I don't think it says that it literally has to be a prerequisite. It says, because that's like more absolute again. Like it's not saying here that you literally have to go to the meetings to have any chance of actually caring for people. It just says it is more likely. So not as a prerequisite, so that'd be wrong. C, leads city officials to mandate volunteer service for frequent attendees. So yeah, I don't think it says anything about mandating volunteer service. That also would just not really work. Doesn't say anything about that. And finally, motivates attendees to take action. Okay, so that definitely works. They're exposed to it, and so they want to take more action as a result of it. This next one here. So I'm not sure if I really remember this one, Loki. Okay, let me actually read this one again. So in a community newsletter, the Parks Director wrote that last summer, the Saturday market drew only a handful of vendors and some visitors left the road because there are only a few shaded seats. Okay, so a while ago, the thing was like really, they didn't like it. People didn't want to go there. It was really annoying, uncomfortable to be there, so they just didn't like it. This spring, after the market was moved to a plaza, trees and more benches added. Local reporters described the Saturday market as busy and comfortable, noting that several vendors sold out by noon. Okay, so after they moved it, after they added some like better stuff to it, now people don't hate it as much. They are actually starting to like it. The reporter also mentioned having covered last summer's marketing, called it sparse. Okay, so the reporter is like, you were really bad before, now you're better. So in the reporter's view, okay, so I guess it would be that they thought it was really bad before, thought it was really like low attendance before, but now they're thinking, okay, it's pretty good. So that's my prediction. And looking at the choices, the market should be canceled because it's still, okay, so it doesn't say anything about being canceled. That doesn't make sense at all. The Treefield Plaza was a worse location, making the market less comfortable than before. Yeah, I think they're saying that's the better location. Yeah, trees, that make it better. So that would be wrong. C, moving the market and adding benches made it more successful for visitors. Okay, yes, that definitely works. Successful, yeah, that would definitely work. Few vendors can participate this spring, which is why some booths sold out early. Okay, doesn't say anything about fewer people participating, so that would also be wrong. So C would be right here. One more thing that I just should mention real quick is that it's definitely fair, as you do choices, to reread certain parts of the passage. You should not feel like you have to completely reread the entire thing. If you have to reread the entire thing, you probably did not read it well enough the first time. But it's definitely fair to like I did here, think, did they actually say the thing about the trees making it more comfortable? A big issue I hear from students is that they are struggling with this and they're never referencing the passage again. I mean, you don't have to feel like you are like so good at this that you can never reference the passage. Like this is just a worthwhile, reasonable thing to do in any scenario. So it's worth it to give a shot at that. Comment below if this helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure to always stay Gucci.